this is what we have remaining. Let's take a look at it and then attack it. What I'll do over here is copy it. And we'll take a look at what we're going to be doing. I redid the topology. So configuring wired ICE, we'll do that. Wireless ICE. Actually, most of the stuff that we did with the wireless, I'm going to do it again with the ICE portion. So essentially, I'm going to be taking a look at the entire ICE section right now, including device administration. We'll start with the wireless portion over here. If you guys remember the topology from the last time around, I modified it a little bit. I also put in a small section over here for the ASA, and I'll explain that later on when we talk about this protocol called the SGT change protocol. SXP. That's what the firewall is over here to go out to the internet. But other than that, we'll get back to that later on. My focus right now is in the wireless part. If you guys remember the last time that the last thing that we did it quick, so I just want to just spend a little bit more time on it, get that going, and that will lead us into the other stuff that we want to do over here. So in terms of wireless, the way I wanted to set it up, right now, if I had to set up the wireless without the ICE portion, I would need to create how many SSIDs or how many WLANs would I need to create? Let's say I had the 3 VLANs, the sales, the marketing, and the finance. How many SSIDs would I need to create if I was doing it without the ICE on the WLC? I would need to create one called sales, the SSID sales, and I would need to link it with the SVI. Let's say I would call it sales, which was associated with VLAN 20. Similarly, I would need to create one for Mark using the Mark SVI and the VLAN 30, and similarly finance, which is 10, right? And we talked about yesterday, rather than doing that, what you can do is you can integrate WLC with ICE in the sense that rather than doing it based on different SSIDs, you create a single SSID. Let's say for your company, whatever you want to call it, let's say XYZ Corp. When the user logs in into the WLC via the AP, the WLC goes and asks the ICE, hey, listen, this user is trying to log in. His name is Sales1. On ICE, I would have put Sales1 into a group called Sales. So it says, oh, Sales1 is part of Sales. He's putting the right password in. Sales is associated with VLAN 20. So please put this guy into VLAN 20. So when the when the WLC gets the VLAN 20 assigned to it, it automatically overrides the default interface, the management interface with Sales. I still need to create the SVI, but I don't need to create a SSID associated with it. It's going to dynamically change the SVI based on the VLAN that has been assigned to that particular user. You guys understand that? We did that the last time around. We'll do it again today. We'll just write the steps for them as well as we go through it. So that's my objective over here. So in order to do that, how do I start? How do I go about doing it? The first thing that I would do, and I'll do this over here, I will put it in the order in which I want to actually finish it, because we've already done the wireless. I'm going to just start with the wireless at the top. We still need the SVI on the WLC. We don't need the SSID. SVI is required anyway. SVI, you need to create the VLAN interfaces, but the SSID will be one. So everybody will just see one SSID getting broadcasted. Once it gets broadcasted, everybody logs into the same SSID with their username and passwords. When they log in using their username and passwords, it will get authenticated based on ICE. The ICE will tell the WLC, this is the VLAN that I want you to put this user on. The WLC will look for the appropriate SVI that matches that VLAN tag and switch over dynamically. Got it, Omar? And you will see that over here. So the first thing over here to do is configure the WLC with the SVIs. Okay. Where do I do it from? As I'm doing it, I am going to be writing those steps for you guys as well. So I'm going to go on to my WLC. I've just logged in. It's a blank WLC. I do have the network set up. I have this as my DHCP server. Router 1 is my DHCP server. It has those same, what do you call it? You guys remember the DHCP config? Let me show you that as well so that you guys can see it. Show run section DHCP. Exclusions 1 to 100, 10 to 10.1 to 10.100, 21 to 20.100. So everything will be 101. Start off with the ranges 123, the default gateway 123. I have the option 43 in VLAN 123. The reason for that is because my AP is in VLAN 123, and the other three, they're normal ones. So that's what I've done on R1 as my DHCP server. So that part is part of the basic config that we did yesterday. So my objective right now is to start with the WLC. WLC, because my AP would have gotten the IP address from the DHCP server, it would have registered over here based on that option 43. My first objective over here would be to create that interface. Where's that? Controller, interfaces, and under interfaces, the option is new. And that's what I'm going to do over here. I'm going to write that down for you guys. So place you do it at controller, interfaces, create new, and the things that you need to specify. The interface name, I'll call it sales. We'll actually start with finance. 10. The port number. Remember, the port number is that WLC port number it's going to use to go into the switched environment. I'll say 1. The IP address for the DHCP relay. So I'll say 10.99. This is the SVI that I'm creating where? On my WLC. 10.99, 10.1 is the default gateway, and my DHCP server is 10.1. So that's my first SVI created. Once that's done, I'll create the second one. Again, interface name is going to be sales now, VLAN 20. Actually, I should write that down. So the interface, the name, I called it sales, VLAN, I said, no. Finance, 10, interface was 1. That's the physical interface on the WLC. And the IP configuration, IP address. This is going to be used for doing your DHCP helper for your wireless clients. Subnet mask. Oops. And my default gateway. Sorry, this is 99, default gateway is 1. What else did I need to specify? The DHCP server address, which is going to be 10.1. My default gateway is also mine. And I'll do the same thing for what? Sales and for marketing. So the second one was sales. Interface is the same one, 20.99. The IP address is 20.2. The DHCP server is the same. And the third one is mark 30, 30.99, 30.3. Default gateway is the same. Done? So that's my first step over here. Let's also do it. I just put the commands in there. This was for sales. So the port number is 1. VLAN should be 20. IP addresses 192.20.99. And my default gateway is 20.2. And my DHCP server is 10.1. And apply. My second interface is done. Sales is done. Finance is done. New. Mark 30. To actually do it doesn't take long. I am just explaining to you guys. Not only am I explaining, I'm writing the steps for you guys. That's why it takes us a bit to do. Otherwise, if I had to do it without looking at or explaining it to you or writing it down, it's much quicker. This one is the same. So if you really look at it, the only thing that I've done is created 3 interfaces under the controller. Omar, are you okay with this? Remember you were asking about the SVIs? I still need to have the SVIs in place, which are tagged or linked up to what? The VLAN identifier. Good? Everybody okay with this? So once this is done, now I can go ahead and create my, when the VLAN tag comes in, from where? From the ICE, it would not be able to assign it to any VLAN identifier. There's no interface associated with it. If there's no interface associated with it without the VLAN tag, it does not have any interface to tell it which interface to go out on. So it's not going to work. So it's a requirement. Once this is done, because now I need to communicate to the ICE box, I'll go to security, radius, authentication, and I'll create the pointer, the relationship between what? WLC towards the ICE, ICE will do it towards the WLC. So where's that at? Second step, create the relationship between ICE and WLC. Where on the WLC? I'm just going to finish the WLC part first, and then we'll do the ICE part. Security, radius, authentication, and I will create a new server. And in there, I'll put in the IP address as the IP address of the WLC, which is going to be 35, and a secret key. To set this relationship up, I'll say Cisco 123 and apply to save it. And I'll do the same thing for what? Accounting. All right. So let me show you that. So over here, new. Server IP is 123.35, password Cisco 123. Cisco 123, apply, creates it. Go to accounting, new, same thing. Done. So I've created my pointer towards the server. That's the next thing that I need to do over here. Once this part is done, The next part is to set up my SSID, telling it that it needs to get the VLAN tag from where? From this configured ICE box that I have with the radius server. Where is that done? Under the WLAN. Now I'm going to create my WLAN, but rather than creating 3 WLANs, I'm just going to create one. So the next step over here would be create the WLAN with a pointer towards ICE for the interface override, which is under WLAN, create new. You're going to specify the profile name. Let's call it XYZ. SSID. It's going to be XYZ. All right. And then you need to enable it. Check it. Interface, you're going to use the management interface to communicate. The normal one, the one that I'm using for normal connectivity as well. I'm going to use that to communicate to ICE. Security, default, which is set up, I'll show you, it's set up for .1x authentication. You need to specify your AAA server. Under AAA server, you're going to allow check radius server interface override, allowing that to happen, that it's going to change from the management interface to whatever interface based on the VLAN tag that was given. Specify the radius servers that you created in step 2. Change the order of authentication to radius at the top. Let me show you that, where I do that from. So under here, create new. The profile name, I'll call it XYZ. I'll call this XYZ. So the SSID now will be XYZ, just a name, whatever the name of the company is. Apply. First thing, checkbox, enable it. Interface, I'm going to leave it as management. That's the interface it's going to use to communicate to ICE. Under security, default is WPA2 using 802.1x authentication. That's what I want to use. On the same tab, there's a tab for AAA servers. Click on it. Radius server override interface. What is this? When you get a VLAN tag from your ICE, change the interface to what? That particular VLAN SVI that I've created. Which is your server? This is your ICE box. Remember, I created that under security, and towards the bottom is where you change the order, where you put radius at the top. Now, although I've done this under the AAA servers, on the same WLAN, there's an advanced tab. Under the advanced tab, you need to enable it globally. So if you don't say allow AAA override, you have done it under security, it won't let it do it. And even the AAA override, who's allowed to do it? Who's allowed to do the AAA override? Under the NAC state, you need to change it to radius NAC, allowing the radius server to do the override. So advanced, allow AAA override. So it's like a master switch. NAC state is radius NAC. And apply. And my WLC configuration is done. I need to save it, apply it. There you go. So now I have XYZ as my WLC setup as the WLAN as well as your SSID. Good. Now, what do I do on ICE? I'm going to open up a new screen over here for ICE. Should be set up. It's blank right now. All right. Blank screen. The first thing in ICE that I need to do over here is set up the relationship between what? The WLC and ICE. Where do I do that from? So under administration, you can go to network devices and add the WLC over here as the network device. So let me write that down. Create the WLC relation or configure WLC relationship in ICE. Where? Administration, network devices, new or add. You'll give it a name, WLC, IP address 50, protocol, and what was the other thing? Secret key. Need to match. And then submit or save whatever they have as a thing. Let's do that over here. So add WLC. IP address is 123.50. Radius as a protocol, and the password is Cisco123. Show it, make sure it's the right one, and submit. So WLC as a device is populated over here. The next thing that you need to do over here the third step or fourth. This was 4. Change of authorization is when you do a posture validation. The user logs in, he gets authenticated, he gets authorized, but he has limited access. So when you do a posture, it checks the posture of the device is proper, it will change your profile from one profile to the other. That's called change of authorization. So you log in once, you get limited access, but based on additional checks, it can change you to a different profile. And that's what change of authorization is, COA. All right, creating the WLAN with the pointer towards ICE. We've done, we need to, no, this is done. Our next step over here is create the authorization profiles that will specify the VLAN to be assigned. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go to policy, policy elements, results. If I'm wrong, I'll just go and check it again. Authorization profiles, and we'll add. The name I'll specify as, let's say, sales wireless, or we'll start with finance wireless. VLAN is going to be 10 and submit. So in this profile, all I'm doing is giving it a name and a tag. Similarly, I'll do the same thing for what? I'll create 3 profiles. Sales, which is 20, and mark, which is 30. Good so far? Okay, let's do it. So where do I do this from? So this part is done. As I said, policy, policy elements, results. Go to authorization, authorization profiles. Did I write that down? Authorization profiles and add. I'll give it a name. We'll start with finance, wireless. Scroll down a bit and you should see what? The option for the VLAN. Say the VLAN for finance is 10 and submit. Similarly, I will do sales wireless, VLAN 20, submit. So I have sales wireless and finance wireless. Similarly, I'll add mark wireless, VLAN 30, done. So my 3 profiles are created. Although I created the profiles, I don't have the groups and users created. So the next thing that I need to do over here is create the groups and users, associate the users with the appropriate groups. So I'm going to create a group, sales. Actually, I'll show you where to do it under administration. Identity management. Groups or endpoint group, something like that. Add, and I'll add sales. Name, sorry, finance. Submit. Sales, and this would be Mark. All right. So let me show you where. Under administration, identity management, groups. Under groups, go to user identity groups. User identity groups. Click on add and create the groups. So finance first. Sales. Mark. All right. Next, once the groups are created, I need to create the users, which is right at the same place almost. It is called identities. And user identities, I believe. I will check that. Add name, I'll call it say finance fin 1. Password we'll say is Cisco 123. Group is finance and submit. Sales 1. Group is sales. Mark 1. Group is Mark. Password is Cisco 123. I'll just copy it. So over here, administration, you can always go like that, but if you want to see the entire path, so administration, identity management, identity. Under identity, just click on add. One second, guys. Sorry about that. So this is just under users, so there's no special thing. Users, not user identities, and add. So let's do it over here. The first user was Pen1. Password was, I believe I've copied it, Cisco123. You guys okay with this? Normal user creation, putting the user in the group. Can you give a brief on relationship with user identity, group, and profile? Which the profile that I created earlier on, don't get caught up with the name. The name that I, for example, over here, when I went into policy and went to results, authorization, and profile, don't get caught up with the name over here, because the name is just a name. I could have called it ABC if I wanted to, right? These are just names. I haven't linked them up yet. So the main thing with this profile that I have is this profile has a characteristic inside it that has a particular VLAN associated with it. That's all it has right now. I haven't actually linked the group or the user to this profile yet. Profile is just a name. I want to give it a name that makes sense, so when I call it, it makes sense. But the main thing inside the profile is not the name of the profile, it's what? So whenever I'll create a policy now, which is the next step and the last step. In the policy, I'm going to specify, hey, if the user comes in and he's a member of the sales group, give him this profile. When I give him this profile, inside the profile, the VLAN 20 is there. You understand, Zahir? So when I'm creating these groups, I'm just creating the groups of the users. Generally, these groups and users would have been created inside what? Inside Active Directory, right? I don't have Active Directory. I'm doing it inside the ICE. The ICE box is where I'm doing it. So this is just a name right now. What's the significance of here? What am I doing over here? What's so important about this over here? What's important about this over here is the VLAN that I've specified within it. Not the name, but the VLAN inside it. Correct. The profile has it's not just the VLAN. You could also assign other things like ACLs and that type of stuff. All right. So the last step, the thing that ties everything together, is called the authorization policy. So the last step over here, which is the 7th step, link up the profile, the group, the user group, and the wireless authentication to each other in a authorization policy. So the profile, the group, and it's coming through a wireless device is all grouped up inside the authorization policy. So the main tie-up is the authorization policy. And that's what I'm going to do now. With authorization, and I will create a new one. I'll insert a new policy. Inside that policy, I'll give it a name. I'll call it the sales wireless policy. I'll specify that the group should be what? Sales. The authentication type should be what? Because I can have a different policy for wireless clients and wired clients. I don't need to, but it's a better thing to do. Wireless 802.1x. And based on that, if he's a wireless client and he's getting authenticated inside a group called sales, the profile that should be assigned to him should be what? The sales wireless profile. All right. Similarly, I'll do what? Finance. I'll call it the fin policy. Finance, wireless this, and the fin wireless profile. Sales I've done, and then I'll do the third one. Mark, this is the tie-up. This is where I'm tying everything up. Is it making sense, guys? This is what I did yesterday as well, by the way. I just did it a little quicker. Good so far? All right, where do I do it? As I said, policy, authorization. I'm going to insert the rule at the top. Let's call it fin wireless policy. The group, user identity group, and I'll say finance. Where's finance? Condition is how I logged in. I don't need to specify it. If I don't specify it, that means finance coming into wired or wireless would be the same. But I want to make that distinction because later on I'm going to do the wired as well. Wired is through the switch. So wireless.1x. So if finance comes in through the wireless, it knows it's a wireless because of the WLC. Give him this profile. Which profile? The one that has VLAN 10 associated with it. So it creates it like that. That's the name of the authorization policy. Group finance, authenticated using wireless.1x, given this policy called fin wireless. This is the one that has what? The VLAN 10 in it. Similarly, I'll duplicate it above, below, it doesn't matter because these are different groups. I'm going to say sales wireless policy. The group, I'm going to change it. Wireless 802.1x is okay. And I'm going to change the profile I'm assigning to this. Oops, wrong one. Sales wireless, done. So sales will be given sales wireless, which is VLAN 20. Finance will be given fin wireless, which is 10. And the third one, duplicate below, would be Mark. Oops, did the wrong one. This one over here. Where's Mark? This is the group, by the way, the user group that has Mark 1 in it. So this one would have a bunch of different what? Users. And I'm going to change this to Mark Wireless. We have the three. Finance, give it fin wireless. Sales, give it sales wireless. Mark, give it Mark Wireless. Once you're done, don't forget to save it. And I'm done. To test it from the wireless client by creating a wireless profile on the PC. What's the name of the SSID that I'm going to be logging into? You guys remember? It was called XYZ. So I'll go into my client. Actually, I need to enable my adapter. If it's not enabled, the wireless thing doesn't pop in. Manage wireless networks. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to create a brand new one. Add, manually create it. Network name has to be the name of the SSID. All right. The security type is WPA2 Enterprise. That's your 802.1x. Click next. Change the connection settings. There's a security tab over here. Don't remember the credentials. In real life, you will remember the credentials because your laptop you're going to use to log in every time using the same username. Here, I'm not using the same username. Why not? Because I want to test different users. If I was not testing users, this is okay to keep. The next thing, validate server certificate. I don't have the CA server for the WLC, sorry, for ICE. So don't validate the server. I'm getting validated. I'm not validating the server. The other thing, automatically use my Windows logon name and password. So if I'm logging to a domain, it would automatically connect up. I don't want to do that because I don't have a domain controller over here. So I want to specify the username password. Enable fast reconnect. So if I lose the connection, reconnect using the same username password. Again, I'm unpacking these things that would normally be there. The only thing that I would disable is the validate server certificate. Other than that, I would leave the other ones in because normally my laptop is used to log in using the same username password every time. It's not like what I'm doing right now. I'm going to go from sales one, finance one to marketing one. Click OK. Oh, one more thing. I need to specify what? My authentication method. I'll say it's user authentication. And I can save the credential. I'll start with FIN1. The password you guys know is Cisco 123. Click OK, OK, and OK. Close. I'll open up a new one over here. I'm going to try to connect up to XYZ over here. Let's see what happens. This happens, try to disable and re-enable. Sometimes it does give you issues like that. Trying to connect up to XYZ. Now this is an issue. See if it went to this guy at all. So I can go and check my live logs. No, it's not even coming over here. So under administration, network devices, 192.163, 123.50. This is good. And on my WLC, .192, 168, 123. Looks good. Enabled management .1x. Enable the override. This is good. Enabled. Enabled. That's strange. I actually gave an IP address as well to 10. It's connected. It's like, what the hell happened? Everything looks good. So if I do show IP config, it's given 10, right? I change my credentials under my profile, security, go to advanced settings, replace credentials. I'm going to log in as sales1. Not connected, so it disconnected because there was a change in the username. Attempting to authenticate. If it doesn't, because I'm flipping between different users like that, just disable the interface, bring it back up. That way it's a cleaner way of doing it. But always change that first. Now let's try it. Let's check. 20. You guys see that? And you can find that out also on the WLC if you want to check it. I can go to my management device, monitor, clients. This is my client, 20.101. It'll tell you the information about it, the AP that it's registered on, the WLAN policy that was used to connect up, the authentication key mechanism was 802.1x. Where is that? Should also tell you that it's used VLAN 20. There you go. All right. See this? Username is sales1, VLAN ID is 20. Clear, guys? So now I'll do one more, just so that we can test all three of them. Again, I am going to change my profile and change it to Mark. See if it's got it. Not yet. That's what I hate about this, is just sometimes when you're flipping too many times, it just bunks off. So you do a couple of enable disables, it should be okay. .101. 30.3 is your default gateway. Good so far, guys? Everybody okay with this? So in terms of what we needed to do, we've just done these two things, but we've set up a whole bunch of stuff that will help us. The topology is set up, my username, passwords are set up over here. So a lot of that stuff is done for you. The next thing I want to do is something really cool, which is your SXP protocol. What is your SXP protocol and how does it work? You guys pay attention to this. This is a new technology. Anybody need record permission with you guys? Okay. So with SXP, this is the way it works. Let's say this is my ASA over here. It wants to control who can go for what traffic to the outside. I want to control who can go out, but I don't know the IP address of the users. All right. So what I want to do, because the IP addresses are what? Done through DHCP, so they can be dynamic. All right. So what you have the ability to do over here is, as soon as the user logs in, he comes in through the WLC. He's a wireless user, right? When he logs in, he gets authenticated with the WLC. The WLC has the IP address assigned to that particular user, doesn't he? So for example, he's coming in and he gets logged in, let's say over here, he's a user in that particular VLAN. The IP address will be over here. 192.168.20. Let's say 108, something. Who has that over here? What you have the ability to do over here is you can run a protocol called the SGT. These are called security group tags, which are just numbers. You have the ability to run this SGT exchange protocol, SXP, between WLC and ICE. So when the ICE authenticates the WLC user, he has the ability to assign, because the WLC has the IP address, he will use a particular group tag to assign to the user based on a group, based on a profile. So all the users coming in for example, for the profile called sales, will be assigned a group tag of, let's say, 5001. Just a number. So he now knows a particular IP address, 192.168.20.105, for example, has a group tag of 5001. All right. What he has the ability to do is he can set up the same SGT relationship with the SXP protocol with the ASA, in which he's going to specify to him the IP address is associated with this particular what? Group tag of 5001. Now, how does that help? Here on the ASA, I can create an ACL not based on the IP address. Instead, I'm going to do it the ACL based on what? 5001. I can write an ACL on the ASA using the SGT, specifying if 5001 comes in onto my device, I will let him access the internet, but I'm only going to let him access the internet for these protocols, XX, YY, ZZ. But if somebody comes in, let's say a user from marketing comes in, he's going to have a group tag of 5002. I want 5002 to have access to maybe XX and YY. So on the ASA, I don't have an ACL based on what? Any of the IPs, it's all done based on these SGTs, the security group tags. You guys understand that? So ICE is the mechanism that is going to, at the time of authentication, assign the tag based on the profile that you created. I'll show you that. And it'll associate the IP address, whatever IP address has been assigned to that user, from where? From the DHCP server. He's going to associate that with an appropriate tag. He's going to send that tag to the other device in this particular domain, again using the SXP protocol. Now over here you have two type of SXP devices in terms of ICE. This guy is the speaker because this is the guy that's telling him about the IP. This guy is the listener because he's listening about or finding out about what SGTs have been assigned. So you'll need to set up an SXP relationship between what? WLC and ICE and ASA, where ASA is going to be a listener. He's going to get the security group tags, the SGTs, and based on that, he's going to create an ACL. All right. He's the one that is actually controlling the end device. So the normal speakers in this type of environment are either the WLC or your switch. This type of mechanism falls under this domain called the Cisco Trust Sec domain. This particular setup is known as the Cisco Trust Sec, which allows you the ability to build a trust between the different devices on that network, between the WLC and ICE and the ASA. You guys understand the concept over here? Why do I need to do it? Why didn't I just create a normal ACL on the ASA? Because if I create a normal ACL on the ASA, I would need to do it based on IPs. I might have the same subnet with different users on that same subnet. Somebody from sales, somebody from marketing, somebody from finance. But because each one is logging in and getting assigned to a particular SGT, I can write the ACL based on the SGT, not based on the IP address. I don't care what the IP address is. You guys understand that? And I'll show you how to write that ACL on the ASA. Clear on that so far? Everybody. Let's take a look at how to do it. What are the different steps to do it? Now, I'm going to start with ICE. I'm going to do the configuration on ICE that's required. I'm going to set up the relationships with the WLC and ASA and reciprocate the same relationships on the other devices. Now, one of the things before we get into that, I want you guys to understand what I've done with the ASA. On the ASA, I have an outside interface. As you guys can see, it's connecting towards what? The internet. This is .4. I've enabled Telnet over here. This is the inside interface, which is 192.168.123. Outside is 20.x. I have done PAT over here. So any device on the inside will be patted to the outside interface. Already done. I'll show you that config. I'm also running EIGRP as my protocol and injecting a default gateway to everybody over here. So everybody is using him as the default gateway to go out. So reachability is already established. Let me show you the config on the ASA. So if I go to my ASA over here, take a look at it, show run interfaces. I have my G00, G01, 20.10, and 123.10. Okay, so outside, inside is done. The next thing I want to show you is the NAT, show run object. Inside network, for anything on the inside, I want it to show run NAT. I'm doing in to out, dynamic interface. So path is being done. I'm running EIGRP is my routing protocol and redistributing static. And my static route is the default gateway. So the default gateway is getting injected into entire topology. What's the entire topology look like? That's this guy over here. Just want to make sure I save it. ASA is injecting it using the EIGRP to everyone. I send it to R1, R1 sends it to 2, 2 sends it to 3, 1 sends it to 2 and 3. If you take a look at the devices over there on R1, I want you guys to see that it has a default gateway injected through EIGRP and it's pointing towards 123.10. 123.10 is the IP address of my ASA on the inside. If I go to 2, 2's default gateway is going to come from 1. But again, through EIGRP. 10.1 and 3 is also going to point the default gateway to 1. So this is all done through my routing. So I have full reachability to the ASA. ASA will send it out. Good so far, guys? Everybody okay with the topology? Now, what I want to do next is set up my SXP over here. Clear, you guys? You guys understand the topology? All right, so this is the SGT Exchange Protocol, SXP. Step 1, I'm going to start with ICE. Enable the SXP service on ICE. Where is it done at? Let's take a look. I'll go to ICE over here. The place it's done from is administration, system, deployment. It's okay, I'm in standalone mode. That basically means I don't, if this ICE goes down, I don't have any backup. Click on the device that you have, ICE. That's my ICE device. Now there's 2 services over here. I'm going to show you both that I need. Later on, I am going to be doing device administration, the TACX part of it. This is also the place that I need to enable it. I won't enable it right now because I need to enable it when I do that. So I'm just going to enable the SXP service. This is where you enable TACX when I need to do TACX. That's later on though. Enable the SXP service, save. So that's the first step. Let's write that down. Where did I do it from? Administration, system, deployment, ICE, which is my device over there. Under policy service, I'll show you where that's at. I need to enable the SXP service and submit or save, whatever the thing is. Let's check. The policy is this guy over here. Under policy service, enable the SXP service. All right, done. Clear, guys? Everybody okay with the first step? Simple enough. You enable the SXP service. The next thing, what you have the ability to do is create a password for all your speakers and listeners. If you don't want to do it, you can create a custom one. But by doing a default password, you don't need to create the password, specify the password over and over again. So what do I do over here is I go to Trust Sec. One of the things I can do is I can go through different screens over here to do it. One of the things that they have done for you guys in terms of setting certain things up, rather than doing it based on different menu items, they have done what is known as a work center. Work center gives you the different tabs that are required for different type of things. For example, Trust Sec, all the different things that I need to do are over here. You guys see that? All right. And here, one of the options is settings. Similarly, later on, when we do things like device administration, all the different links are over here. They made it easier for you rather than going searching for it. Everything can be done in one place. So right now I want to do Trust Sec. The first thing in Trust Sec that I need to do after enabling the service is go to settings. In the settings, I will go and set up my SXP password, which is under again, Work Center, Trust Sec, settings. Under settings, go to the SXP settings. And over there's a global password. If you don't do that, I'll show you the other way of doing it. But over here, I just want to make it easy on myself. I'll set the password as Cisco123. Not required, but it's a best practice type of thing so that you don't need to worry about having a password conflict. So let's write this down. Configure a global password for the SXP devices. Where is that done through? Work Center. Get used to this Work Center. It's really nice. Trust Sec. I think we went to settings. I'll check that. And after settings, we went to SXP settings. Global password for SXP. I set it to Cisco123 and submit or save one of those two. Put a line between so you guys can see. All right, let's just check to see if I did it properly. I hate this. Trust Sec, settings. Oops. I'll do it again. Come on. Trust Sec, settings. SXP settings. All right. Yeah. Global password, Cisco123, and save. SXP service will be restarted for the new global settings to take effect. I'll say yes, and it's going to do its thing. So this is a save. Done. While it's doing the reset, I'll write the next step. Now I'm going to add the SXP devices, both the what do you call it? The speakers, which in my case is what? The WLC, because that's where the client is coming in from, and the listener, which is your ASA in our case, in ICE. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Remember how we set up a relationship between the WLC and ICE? There was a secret password to set the relationship up. Same thing. The only difference is with SXP, I can have a global password that can be applied to all the different SXP devices that I have. Or I can do individuals. I'll show you how to do the individual as well. I'll show you that in the next step, the step coming up. So it's restarting the service. Give it some time. It does take a bit for the service to start, so just be patient with it. Brilliant. So it's done. The next thing I need to do now this thing has been done, is to add the devices. Where do I do it again? From the work center, under Ccie Sec, go to SXP. That you first enable the SXP service. You have done that. Add the SXP device. That's what we're doing. Also configure SXP settings. We've done all that. So now we need to add the device. That is not something that you haven't done. It's just telling you these are the things that I need to do. So over here, I'll say WLC 192.168.123.50 is a speaker. All right. Connected PSN, policy service node, which is ICE. It's the one that will be implementing the policy. SXP domain, keep it the default. Remember the password type is here you were talking about, asking? I'm going to use the default password over here to set the relationship up, the secret key. Or I could do a custom one and specify it over here. So if you want to override the default password, I can do it over here, or you can specify it over here by using the default. It'll go to that Cisco 123. That's a secret password to set the relationship up between the Ccie Sec devices, which is, in this case, the WLC and ICE. Save it. So my first device has been saved, which is my WLC, but it would not be up right now. Why won't it be up? Because I haven't configured the WLC to point to it. Come on. While it fetches it, I'll add another one. The other one is my firewall, my ASA. The name doesn't matter. What does matter is the IP address. It is 123.10, and it's a listener. Because he's the one that will get the SGTs assigned to it from ICE. I'm going to use the default password, default everything, and save that as well. Yeah, it is a little slow with these type of things, so you need to be a little patient with it. So it looks like it's saved. WLC as a speaker, status is unknown, and soon you'll get the ASA also listed over here. It takes some time. See, right now it's not there. Why? I haven't done anything on the WLC. So I'll go to the WLC now, and I set up my Ccie Sec over there. On the WLC, so have I written this down? Oh, man. Where was it? Under Work Center, Ccie Sec SXP. SXP devices. Add. So the first one was the WLC. IP address was 192.168.123.50. And the role was, what was it? This one was the speaker. Defaults for the rest. And save. The next one was ASA, which was 50, oh sorry, 10. Listener, defaults for the rest, save, and I'm done. Now step number 4, I'm going to do the same thing on where? Add the SXP, or add the SXP device on the WLC and ASA. One at a time. We'll do the WLC first. This is done under the security settings. One of the options you'll see is Trust Sec, and I'll show you that. And over there should be SXP, I think. Let me just check. So under security, one of the options is Trust Sec SXP. All right. First thing, it's disabled by default. You need to enable it and apply. All right. And then set the password, Cisco 123, apply it. So Trust Sec SXP, enable the service, or SXP over here, enable the service, and set the default password to Cisco 123, apply. Once this is done, you click on new and add the IP address of what? The peer. Who's your peer? 192.168.123.35, which is ICE. Apply. This is on the WLC. Off. If you refresh it a bit, it should come on. Eventually, it will come on. No, I don't want to delete it. 192.168.123.35, and my IP is 23.50, which is good. Let's just refresh this. Give it some time, it will eventually come over here as on. What you're looking for over here is on. It should come up, that's okay. And while it's doing that, let's go to the ASA and do the same thing. ASA is all command line. What are the commands for that? The first thing is you enable the service, CTS, Cisco Trust Sec, SXP, enable, enables the service, SXP, default password. Remember just the way the password was set on the other one? Cisco 123, set that up. CTS, the IP address, the source IP. I might have multiple interfaces. I'm going to use a source IP of .10, and then the relationship. SXP connection. Who am I doing the connection to? Here. IP address is 192.168.123.35. Password. The default. Default, it'll point back to that Cisco 123 that I used over here. and my role. Actually, I'm going to put the role of the other side. Mode peer is speaker. So I'm going to specify the other side is the speaker. Just copy this config. I don't need to write it. Cisco. All right. So let's see. Show CTS, SXP, connections. Connections off. Let's try this once. It does have an issue with this. No, and then this. If not, there's the ICE did not initialize properly. But you do need to do this no CTS connection and bring it back up a couple of times. Ending on, at least it's gone into that state. It's trying to turn on. Let's see if the other guy has come up in the meantime. Yeah, there seems to be an issue with the protocol. So let's do it one more time. Settings. Actually, I need to do it under the deployment state. I'll disable and re-enable the service. Unfortunate, but sometimes it is like that. It's a little buggy. 2.2 is a little buggy in that sense. Okay, looks good. Check our policies now. Global settings, the password was there. Cisco 123. Just make sure I didn't misspell it. Let's restart. Let it come back up. That's also a good thing because it's forcing it to reset the service. So if it was a glitch, it will bring it back up. So that's done. I've set the password. It's reset the service. The next thing was my devices. Under SXP, devices, refresh and just wait. Let's just go to the WLC real quick. Enabled, that's where it was. This. Okay. It's very strange. Check the ASA. It's wrong place. responding on. Local mode is listener. The other one is the speaker. Really strange. Okay, we'll do it one more time then. Add WLC 50. This is the speaker. Nice. Default password enabled. Save. Add ASA. That's a listener. Version known. I've done that on the same rack multiple times. Same rack, same everything. I've done it multiple times. Yep, communicate. Obviously, the problem is on ice because both of them are getting unknown. Nothing else that I need to do over here. I'll try doing this, but I know it doesn't matter though. Let me do this. I'll just reset the ice. I'll stop it and restart it. Maybe that will restart a service or something. In the meantime, what we can do is we can utilize this time for a break, because once this is done, once it comes up, it really doesn't take that long. But to bring the ice up, it'll take about 10 minutes. So it's a good time to take a break. Once it comes back up, hopefully it will have reset the service. There's nothing else that you need to do. It's pretty straightforward at this point. Good time to take a break though. Restart the, well, I just restarted the whole thing. It'll restart the entire device. So let's do this. In the meantime, it's 7:16. Let's take a break till 7:30. When it comes back up, hopefully it should be working properly. All right, let's take a 15-minute break. Give it a few more minutes for it to come up. The application server is still initializing, so give it some time. Yeah, it takes a bit sometimes to come up, so just let it come up and we'll get started. This came up, so check it out. Okay. Ending on. Come on. There's not to each other. Try to connect it on the phone. Oh, finally. As I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little buggy. What can I say? So finally, the status has come up for both of them. I have not done any different in terms of the configuration that we have. All right. So finally, we have a relationship up over here. These are the things that I had to do to set the relationship up between the ICE and your, what do you call it? WLC and ASA. So my relationship is set up in such a way that I have my WLC, which is going to be connected to your AP dumb device wireless client. As soon as the user logs in, he gets an IP address. The WLC will report that IP address to ICE. ICE will assign it a group tag, a number, to that particular IP address. So whatever IP address was assigned to that user will be assigned a group tag. Whatever tag has been assigned, ICE will send that group tag to the ASA. And ASA will create its ACL based on that group tag. All right. So what we have done at this point is set up a relationship between ICE and WLC and ICE and ASA. The next thing that I need to do is specify what group tags will be assigned. And one of the things that you can do is you can set it up in such a way as soon as you create your authorization rules, it will automatically for every profile create an SGT. Whether you use it or not, the tag will be there. Once a tag is created, you can use it later on. So the next thing that I need to do on ICE is specify what should the tag be, what the name of the tag be that will be created automatically on ICE to that particular user that's logging in to an authorization profile. So basically, configure the assignment of the group tag to the authorization profile. How to do it? You don't need to actually, you're not actually doing it, but you're specifying the way the assignment of the group tab to the authorization profile will be done. All right, where do I do it from? Let's take a look. Again, everything is under the work center. Go to Trust Sec, go to settings. Under settings, there's an option called the general Trust Sec settings. Over here, I'll say user must enter SGT manually in terms of the numbering. But if I do it through a profile, automatic security group creation, if I do it through a profile, auto create the group tag, do it based on a number. Let's say I'll start with the number. Come on. Let's say I'll start the group number from 5001 to, let's say, 5500. So I'll have about 500 group tags that I'll be assigning for different groups. All right. And anytime I create the group tag, it has to be given a number, a name. It'll be set to the policy name with what? SGT in the front. So the name of the SGT will be SGT and whatever the authorization profile name will be. I'll show you that in a second. So basically what I'm saying is, as soon as you create a new profile, it will automatically assign authorization policy. As soon as you create a new authorization policy, it will automatically create a new group tag based on this numbering scheme between 5,000 to 5,500. You can also manually do it. This allows you the ability to do it manually as well. Click Save. So let's write this down. What did I do over here? If you want to do it manually, or if you want to do it automatically, how do you do it? This is under Works. It was under Work Center, Trust Sec. Under Trust Sec, we went to the settings, and over settings, I believe we went to settings, general Trust Sec settings. All right. In the general Trust Sec settings, we did two things. One, at the top where it says security group tag numbering, I allow the user, the administrator, to do it manually. So the user can enter it manually under security group tag numbering. All right. And then we also did one more thing. What was the other thing that we did? For your profiles, automatic security group creation. And you will see that. Whenever you create an authorization policy, it will automatically create a group, and the numbering will be between. So let's say SGT number range for auto creation is from 5,000 to 5,500. The rest you can do it manually. SGT automatic numbering range, I set 5,001 through 5,500, and the name, auto naming of that particular SGT, I'll call it with a prefix of SGT. You'll see that in a second. So whatever the name of the authorization policy is, but with a prefix of SGT and whatever the name is. Done? I think we have saved it already, so that's why it's not giving me an option. So if I go over here and go back, you should have the same settings. Yep, it's there. Now, what I want to show you guys now is, if I go back to my authorization policies over here, I've already created finance, fin policy, sales policy, and mark policy. What I'm going to do over here is duplicate above. All right. I'll just call it fin wireless. Forget about the policy because I want to have a different name. What I want you guys to see is, as soon as I create a new policy, this is a brand new policy, I want it to have all the same settings. I'll delete the other one, the old one. I want you guys to see in the thing over here, first of all, it says auto SGT creation. So that means that automatically the policy will have automatic SGT creation. And in there, it's assigned finance what? The tag 5001. Why 5001? Because that was the first tag in that automatic creation. So click on done. At the same time, I'll get rid of this second one over here. I don't need it because the top one is exactly the same. I'll do the same thing on the other one because the reason I'm doing that is the existing ones will not have the SGT created. The new ones will have it. So I'll say duplicate above. Sales wireless. Take a look. It should be 5002. So finance is 1. Sales is 2. Click OK. Get rid of the old one. And the third one is mark. Duplicate above. Check it. It should be 5003. So that's the automatic tag. It's just a number. It really doesn't matter what it does at this point. It's just a number at this point. But I'm going to do something with that number once it's all taken care of. So it's going to assign as the SGT. Remember that name that I talked about? The SGT is called SGT under Mark Wireless Policy. All right. Click save. It's going to save it. So I've done creating the policy. So whoever logs in using these wireless devices will have either one of the 3 tags. Now, what do I do with the tag? The tag doesn't do anything. It's just a mark. But based on that mark, I can go to my ASA and create an ACL based on a special object group. This object group over here, I'm going to create 3 object groups. So I'll say object group security, which is a special object group specifically for what? These SGT. So also I'll say SGT underscore sales. All right. If I want to be more specific, I can say wireless. Whatever it is, it's going to be a long name. So I'll just keep it as SGT sales, but you can give it a longer name, whatever name you want to use based on the type of user that's coming in. But inside this group name means nothing at this time. You specify your security group tag. For sales, I believe was 5002. That's okay. I don't have the group tag right now. I'm going to add it later on. Similarly, I'm going to do finance, which was going to be 5001. And I'll do another one for mark, which is going to be 5003. So you need to go hand in hand with the tag that you've created on the other side. Now that I have these, SGT object groups, I can use them. I'm going to put this in your config. And the next step over here, I'm going to use this in an ACL. Configure an ACL based on the SGTs assigned on the ICE. Step A, create the object groups with the appropriate tags. That is correct, because once it's assigned to that particular group, it's assigned. So it's not going to change just because you restarted the ICE or restarted the device. So every time a salesperson logs in, he will be using the same profile. So he's always going to be assigned the same SGT. His IP address will change, but his tag will remain the same. That's the whole thing. Regardless of what IP address he gets, because DHCP might assign him a different IP address, his tag will be the same. You get my point? So when the PC logs in the next time around, he might have a different IP, but his tag will remain the same, because his tag is associated with what? The tag is associated with his login credentials. So if he's logging in as sales, he's always going to use this policy. He's also always going to get that tag assigned to him. And that's the beauty of it. That's what I'm trying to accomplish, is regardless what his IP is, he'll always get the same tag, so I can create an ACL based on that. So that's the first thing that I had to do, is create my object groups. Now I can create an ACL. The way I create the ACL is whatever you want to call it. I'll call it inside, because I'm going to apply it on the inside interface for inside users going out. In here, I'm going to say permit. Actually, first of all, yeah, that's okay. I'll say permit. Let's say for salespeople, I want to give them telnet access. So I'll say TCP. All right. So I'll do this. Yeah, I'll permit first. So permit TCP object group. Actually, which type of object group did I create? Security. So right after TCP, I'm going to check the object group. Which object group do I want to check? This is going to be for sales. So I'm going to say object group called SGT sales. And then I don't really care about the source address. Although I say any, it doesn't matter, because I'm looking at the SGT rather than the IP address. Any EQ 23. So this 23 will be assigned, but it will only be permitted if it's what? SGT sales. And for everybody else, I'm going to create a deny ACL. Deny, same ACL with the deny statement. TCP any EQ 23. So if it's not the SGT tag sales, telnet will be denied to go out. Does that make sense, guys? You guys understand what I'm trying to get to over here? So I'm only allowing telnet from SGT sales. Similarly, I can create another one for, let's say, Mark. ICMP. So this is for Mark. The name of the SGT is Mark. Any. What if you have several policies with SGT and delete one of them? It will come back into the pool. So the next time you create a new policy, it'll come back and be assigned. You get my point? But then it's an issue, because if your devices are using that SGT for something else, you will have an issue, because now the new ones will get the IPs that get the same capabilities as the other one. You understand that? So 5002 was assigned to, let's say in my case, to sales. You delete sales. Now 5002 will be assigned to somebody else, but your ACL is still allowing the SGT sale, which is 5002, to go out. So you need to be careful with that. So again, inside, deny ICMP any. All right. You guys understand what I'm trying to do over here? So this is what my ACL looks like. I'll just copy it. And then I can say permit the rest. It's from inside to outside. So create an ACL to use the object groups based on the security tags. And that's this ACL, and then you apply it normally, access dash group, inside, in interface, inside. All right, I will do that over here. That's your ACL. Everybody okay with this? Ready to test it? So how do I test it? The way I test this is by going into your device over here. Remember this wireless thing? I'll shut the interface and bring it back up. I don't know who's logging in. Who's logged in right now? We can check and use him. I hope it's Mark or sales, because otherwise I would need to create one for finance as well. WLC, monitor, clients, Mark 1. Okay, good. So I'll, in order for this to kick in, what I need to do is I need to go to the client, disable the interface, because at the time that he logged in with what? The old profile. So now when he logs in, he'll get the new profile assigned to him. He still would log in as Mark. You should still get an IP address from the 130 range, 30.101. Now, if you go back into your ICE, you should see this mapping over there. Where do you see it? Work Center, SXP. There's an all SXP mappings. And over here, it should tell you that that IP 30.101 has been assigned a particular SGT. So 30.101 has been assigned an SGT based on SGT mark, which is 5003, I believe. All right. And I have actually learned it from where? From 50. But at the same time, I would have told this to whom? To the ASA. Now, one of the things that you have as an issue over here with the ASA is, and this is something that they've resolved in the new version of ICE, here when you do CTS, SXP mappings for your SGT map detail, it doesn't show you any of the details. You need to reset the connection for it to kick in. So one of the things that I need to do over here is show run CTS. I need to reset this. This has been taken care of in the new version 2.3. This is one of the bugs that they had, that they fixed. So as soon as I do this, you will notice that the SGT 5003 has been assigned to this guy. And based on SGT 5003, remember I have that ACL that's allowing ping to work. All right. So if I go over here, because the ASA does have an XLate, there's nothing right now. Show run object, actually show run NAT, which is doing the NAT from in to out for the outside interface. I will go to my PC and see if I can ping. First of all, I'll ping the inside of the ASA to see if my reachability is there. Yeah, I can ping up to the ASA. Let's see if I can go through it. There's a router on the outside, if you guys remember, 20.4. My ping is working. Through what? Through your ASA. Can I telnet to the same device? Let's check. I cannot telnet. Why can I not telnet? Because if you remember on your ASA, what's my ACL look like? Deny anything that is telnet except for what? SGT what? 5002. But my SGT is 5003. I can do anything except for what? Telnet. Good? Everybody okay with that? So over here, if you look at your diagram so that you guys understand what's happening, this user over here, which is part of Mark, has been assigned an SGT of 5003. When he tries to go out through the ASA, because of SGT 5003, he's allowed. Now, can this guy, let's say I'm sitting on router 1, can he ping 20.4? He cannot ping 20.4 because ICMP is only allowed to SGT 5003. Let's check to make sure of that. So if I go over here to router 1, this guy won't even be able to telnet or ping because telnet is allowed for sales and ping is allowed for marketing. So if I do this, I won't be able to ping R4. I will not be able to telnet to R4. Why? It's only allowed, one is allowed for sales, the other one is allowed for marketing. So if I do a ping for, not ping, I did ping already. I'll do telnet now. This will not even work. Why? Because it's only allowed for sales. So let's try sales and see if sales does it. For doing sales, what do I need to do? Change my settings. Wireless not done yet. Now my IP is 20.101. Let's check if the SGTs are there now. Go back over here, do a refresh. SGT sales to 20.101 is active. Let's go to my firewall. Check. Nothing there. How do I get it? You remember what I told you. There is an issue over here, and the way you resolve it is no, which has been fixed. So it is an issue, but it has been fixed now. But from the exam perspective, you need to be aware of it. CPS, SXP, you've done that. Now you should have the 5002, which is your SGT for sales. So now, if I go back over here, remember ping was working for this guy earlier on. It's not going to work anymore. Why not? He belongs to SGT 5002. But at the same time, if I try to do telnet, that will not be an issue. So I logged in from where? From the sales guy is allowed to do telnet. You guys understand SGTs? It's a really cool thing. We had a glitch because of that ICE not registering with the devices not registering. In terms of the configuration, everything was proper. It's just sometimes it is a device at the end of the day, and it does cause problems sometimes. Took a lot longer than I expected it to, but it's done now. And that finishes this portion off completely. Hopefully the other ones will be less in terms of problems. So this is done. The next thing I need to take a look at is this portion over here. What is that? The same thing, but for wired devices. How do I do that? Let me explain that. So this is done completely. And let me save this. This is a valuable note because it's got the entire SXP config over there. Day 16, I believe. Yep. All right. You guys understand it? Questions? If not, I'll jump into the next one. Now, what we did was we used ICE for authentication using .1x for wireless clients. How did the wireless clients get into the network? From the perspective of your ICE, all the devices, the wireless devices connected in, the ICE does not see what? The AP. Instead, AP communicates to WLC, and WLC in turn has a relationship with ICE to do the .1x authentication. This is for wireless. How about for wired? The wired are connected into the switch from at a layer 2 perspective. They're connecting to the switch to this port. So before this PC is allowed to use it, even at layer 2, it's going to do an authentication based on .1x. So in this case, the relationship is between whom? The switch and ICE. Before I did it between what? WLC and ICE. For wireless, for wired, it's between the switch and ICE. Okay? You guys okay with that? You guys understand that? So how do I set that up? Again, just like with the wireless, the first thing that I need to do is set up a relationship between what? ICE and the switch. So how do I do that? I don't need a client at this point, especially for the wireless. I'll disable wireless for right now. Okay, this is disabled. What is the difference between ICE and TACAX? ICE is a device and appliance from Cisco. TACAX is a protocol. The ICE device can communicate to its clients using either of the two protocols, either Radius or TACAX. What's the difference between the IIS server and HTTP? IIS server is the product. The protocol that it uses is HTTP. Same thing. Can you call ICE as a TACAX server? Absolutely, because it's using TACAX as a protocol. Just like IIS can be called a web server. All right, so what I need to do over here is in terms of, this is what now? This is wired 8021X authentication. How do I do it? Step 1, configure a relationship between ICE and the switch. On the switch side, it's pretty simple. AAA new model, ACAX server. Actually, for this thing, because I'm doing .1x authentication, the protocol that I need is not ACAX. I'm going to use radius server host 123.35. Then the secret password between the two, Cisco 123. On your ICE, it's basically the same thing we did with the WLC. Right over here. Where was the WLC relationship? Right here. No, this is just the. There you go. The only difference is this device is going to be a switch, not. So on the ICE, add the device I'm going to add is a switch. The IP address is 15 for the switch. The protocol still radius, still do this. So that's the first step, setting the relationship up between what? ICE and the switch. So let's do it on the switch. On the switch, because as soon as I enable AAA new model, it'll set up authentication based on a local username password. I want to create that so that I don't get myself locked out. Always do that. Before you do AAA new model, put a username password so that you're protected. So AAA new model, local username password should be there. AAA new model followed by what? Radius server, host, the IP address of your radius server, and the secret key. All right. Once you've done that, make sure you can ping it. There you go. Communications there. I'll do the same thing on ICE that I did for the WLC. Where's that at? Under administration, network devices. You'll still see the WLC and only the WLC over here. I'm going to add my switch over here, switch 1. IP address is 123.15. The protocol over here is radius. Same password so that the relationship can be set up. So that's the first step, talking to each other. Done? Now, the next thing that I need to do is my profiles. If I want, I could have technically used the same profiles. Which profiles? Do you remember those profiles that I created where I was assigning different characteristics, which was under policy, policy elements, results, authorization profiles? Remember these sales? Because they were assigning what? VLANs. I can use the same profiles if I want. If you want to have different characteristics assigned to your wireless users versus wired users, if the same person logs into a wireless device, you might want to give them less rights or control them more. If they're logging into wired, you might want to control them less. So that's why I create separate ones. You technically could create the same one. So just for that, I won't do all three. I'll just do sales and marketing. So authorization profile, I'll call it sales wired. And this guy, I'm going to assign a VLAN of sales. I'll still put him in the same VLAN, but I'm maybe later on put an ACL to it so I can control it a little better. So again, this is not assigning anything. It's just creating a profile that I can use. It's called sales wired. Wired means it's coming to the switch. Add another one. We'll call it mark wired. Assign him a VLAN of 30. Oops, what happened? All right. So you have sales wired and you have mark wired. At this time, I've just created the profiles. Good? Clear? What did I do next? But before I do that, let me write that down for you guys. Step 2, configure the authorization profiles for the groups. How did I do it? I'll just copy paste the same things that I did over there. The only thing is I'll change it and give it a different name. That was over here. This was step number. Actually, this is a better description, so I'll just stick to this. I didn't call it wireless, I called it wired, but it's the same thing. It's doing the same exact thing. The reason, as I said, I did a different ones over here because later on I might want to do something differently for the wired users. The next step I've done already. Create the group and users, associate the users with the appropriate groups. Remember, I'm using the same groups. I'm going to use the same user, whether he logs in through wireless or wired, it's the same person. So this part, step 3, I've done already. I've created the groups, I've assigned the users to the groups and given it a password. I'm going to use the same username and passwords. That's done. Not only have I done this, I had done a similar type of step for wireless. I'll change a little bit in there, but rest of the things are the same. That's this part. This is step number. This was 3. So this becomes step number 4. Link up the profile, user group, and wired authentication each other in an authorization policy. So I'll call this fin wired. I don't have fin, but I'll just put it over here for you guys. The only thing is over here, the authentication type, I'll say it's wired.1x. How does it know it's wired.1x? If the request comes in through the WLC, I sees it as a wireless client. If the request comes in through a switch, I sees it as a wired authentication. So it knows, it has the intelligence to see that. And the policy I'm giving them is sales wired, fin wired, mark wired. I still need to do it, but at least I've written it over here. How do I do it? Policy, authorization. Same place that I had this, I can actually copy it. Insert rule above. All right, I didn't copy it. That's okay. I'll call it sales wired. The name of the rule, the group, as the name suggests, is going to be what? Sales. If it's a sales user, this is where the change comes in. Rather than using wireless, I'm going to use what? Wired.1x. And for them, I'm going to assign, see, it's got that SGT. I'm not going to use them for him, but it's still there. What was the name of the profile? Security group, no. Sales wired. All right. Similarly, I'll duplicate it below, for example. I'll create a mark wired, change the group. To mark. It's still wired.1x authentication, and I can change this to mark wired. So these are my mark and sales wired authentication. Save it. I'm almost done. At At this point on the WLC was ready to do .1x authentication. One issue over here. The issue that I have on the switch is the switch needs a bunch of different configuration commands to be enabled for .1x. It is not enabled for .1x by default. Okay, so what are those commands that you need to type in? A bunch. The good thing about that is ICE gives you a validation tool that allows you the ability to go into the switch and see what is missing. ICE knows what commands it requires on the switch for it to work. WLC did not require any commands. Switch requires commands. So what ICE does is checks the switch to see if it has all the right commands. You need to do that. And based on that, I'll tell you, hey, listen, you're missing all these commands. I haven't done anything yet. I have not done any commands specifically on the switch in terms of ICE, except for maybe the radius server command. But I want to check whether it's proper or not. In order to do that, the ICE needs to telnet into your switch. So I need to enable telnet on the switch. I do have a username password already defined, which is admin. But what I don't have is the enable secret, which is required for .1x. So enable secret is Cisco 123, for example. I'll just put it Cisco. All right. The reason I put that in is because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my ICE and I'll tell it, hey, please log in into where? Into my device. Check what my commands are, what are missing. So I'll go to operations, go to diagnostic tools. Let me write this down for you. Configure the switch commands with the help of the diagnostic tools in ICE. So where is it? Operations, diagnostic tools, evaluate configuration validator that's what it's called. Under diagnostic tools, go to evaluate configuration validator and log in. So it validates the configuration, network device, and you specify what? The IP address of the switch along with the username, password, if it's admin lowercase, enable secret. All right. And what interface do you want to run .1x on? Let me show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it, go ahead, log in into 123.25. I only want to check what? .1x. I don't care about the other one. I don't want to do Ccie Sec, local web authentication, profiling. I don't want to do any of that. Run. It's going to try to log in into what? 192.168.123.15, which is a switch. It says user input required because I have not specified the username yet. It prompts me for that. The username is admin. The protocol that I'm using to connect in is telnet. The enable password is Cisco. Submit. It's going to try to log into 123.15. Says, okay, fine. Once it logs in, I'll say, okay, what exact, what do you call it? Interface do you want to do it on? In my case, the interface that I'm going to be doing it on is gig 0/2/0/9. So you know I'm logged into the switch because the interfaces are based on gig 209. It knows the interface is on there. Once I go over there, I can click on submit. It's going to check all the commands that are missing. It'll tell me what the commands are. So when you look at the show results summary, it says, oh, there's a whole bunch of things that are missing over here. What commands are missing? Under the AAA section, all these commands are missing. You have one command in there, that's the AAA new model command. Everything else is missing. But now you know what commands to put in. You guys understand what I did? So although I don't have any commands in, it's telling me what the commands are. You get my point? So you don't need to remember these commands. At the same time, I'm not going to do this on a day-to-day basis. As an engineer in the field, what I've done is I've done this once. I know what those commands are. I put it into a notepad file. Yes, once initially I had done this to figure out what those commands are. And same thing, it's going to give you need to do all of these commands. There's a bunch of different commands. So I'm not going to do it one at a time every time. Yes, on the exam, you need to do it, but at least it's better than remembering each and every command. Yes, it's available to you on the exam, just in case you're going to ask me. This is available to you on the exam as well. All right? So everything is there. No, you cannot push it. You can just find out what the commands are. Because there's a lot of different variables over here. So you need to put it in. For example, logging syslog IP address. You need to put that IP address in. But what I've done, and I can make that file available to you, is this. Now where did I keep it? I put those commands into a file, pointing to my server, my key. All the commands are there that are required. The ones that were listed over there, all of the commands are there. You get my point? So now, rather than doing it one at a time in the field, I'll just copy this and paste it to my switch, and it'll work. So copy this, go to my switch, paste them. One of the things I do is, because it creates a lot of logs, gig 2/0/9, which is my interface for testing, I've shut it down. Or have I? No, I haven't. So it's gonna, yeah, it's shut down. So what I'm gonna do over here is I'm gonna say 2/0/9, no shut, but it's ready for what? .1x. Now, what is 2/0/9? If I go to my test PC, remember the one that I was using, the wireless one? It also has an interface that is connected to switch 1 port 9. So I can test it for .1x. I'll enable it. Right click on it, go to properties, go to authentication. You remember how he created that profile for wireless? Remember when I went into manage wireless and it created that profile? Right? I need to do it again. Enable AAA, because this is for what? Wired. So I'm going to go to settings, uncheck the validate, uncheck the fast reconnect, uncheck that Windows logon name. It's for the wired. That was for wireless. And at the same time, go replace your credentials. I want to log in as sales. Same user, but now he's coming through the switch. So it's going to try to authenticate against the switch and see if it works. Taking too long. Oh, it's done. Now, it is authenticated. With one issue though. Authentication successful. The VLAN policy has been applied. Everything is good. One issue though. The issue is the IP address. This is a wired client. That was a wireless client. Where is he coming in from? Where does he get put into? What VLAN does he get put into? I logged in as sales, so he's generally probably going to be over here, right? So if he's over here and he does a broadcast, where does the broadcast go for DHCP? Where's the DHCP server at? Over here, right? In case of wireless, this was acting as my DHCP relay agent. Switch does not give you that capability. So you need to create the helper address on these two interfaces. Otherwise, they will not be able to forward the DHCP request to the DHCP service. Keep that in mind. I could have done that in your pre-config, but I want you guys to understand that. So I will go back onto what? Router 2, interface F0/1, IP helper address, and point it towards 10.1. 10.1 is router 1, which is my DHCP server. Because this is any device that gets put into these VLANs, they need to have the proper what? Pointer to the proper DHCP server, the DHCP server, which is 10.1, which is router 1. So what I'm going to do over here is go back to this client, disable it. Failed. Would have failed anyways, but just want to make sure everything is proper over here. Switch 1. Clear authentication sessions. Show run interface gig 2/0/9. .1x. Mab is there. I don't need mab, but it's still there. And then it's there. Yep, looks good. So let's log in. Let's check my properties. It's enabled. Identifying, it should get an IP address now based on sales, which is VLAN 20. Hasn't gotten the IP address yet. I do want to check and see and make sure I have it set. Oh, obtain IP address automatically. Should get an IP address from VLAN 20. There you go. And if I log off or change my authentication to what? What was the other one I said? I think Mark is the other one that I did. Mark 1. It's going to get the IP address from 30 now. There you go. You can also check this on the switch, by the way. show authentication sessions, interface gig 2/0/9, VLAN 30 is what he's been assigned. This is the IP address he was assigned. This is the user he logged in from. You guys get my point? So I can do that. Now, one more thing to show you guys over here is not only can you do that, remember I wanted to show you some difference between wireless and wired. Let's download an ACL to this client. So when he logs in as marketing, he should be able to do certain things that only marketing can do. Or you might want to limit him from doing certain things. Let's say I don't want marketing to be able to ping. I don't want marketing to be able to ping. All right. So what I can do is I can go to my ICE. On ICE, I will go to policy, policy elements, results. Under authorization, there is an option called downloadable ACLs, DACLs. So I'll create a DACL, a downloadable ACL, give it a name. I'll create two ACLs. Mark ACL, all right, in which I'm going to say deny. Let's say I want to deny ICMP for Mark. Deny ICMP, any. So write the ACL like you would normally do, starting with the, what do you call it? The action, whether it's a deny or a permit. Don't forget, you want to permit the rest. You can also check the DACL ACL, which is a new thing in 2.0, 1.1. If you made a mistake over here, everything would fall apart. So it says DACL is valid. It has checked the syntax for you. Click submit. So I've created a DACL called Mark ACL. I'll create another one called sales. And this guy, I'm going to deny telnet. Permit the rest. Again, check the syntax. DACL is valid. Submit it. So I've created these two ACLs. Assign them to your authorization profile. Remember sales wired? Go to sales wired. One of the options is DACL. The ACL filter ID is generally for your WLC. So over here, you'll say, which one was I on? Sales. So I'll give it the sales ACL. So not only am I assigning the VLAN, I'm also giving it what? An ACL that will be controlling it. So when the user logs into the switch, an ACL will be downloaded to the switch to that particular port. Similarly, I will do one for Mark wired, the DACL name, the one that I just created. Because this authorization profile is already attached to that policy over here. I don't need to do anything special. You guys remember this one already has that Mark wired, authorization profile. Sales already has sales. So now if I want to check it, I'll go back to my client. I will change my credentials. I was logged in as Mark. I'm going to replace them as sales. So again, it's going to flip. Now I should be in VLAN 20. So I should have an IP address from 20. There you go. That's all good. But I want you guys to see something. Can I ping my router? I can ping it. Can I telnet into my router? Just choose PuTTY from here. Come on. 192.168.20.2. Didn't let me. Why not? Because I have an ACL. Can I see the ACL that was applied? Absolutely can. I go to my switch, show authentication sessions, interface gig 2/0/9. It will tell you that an ACL was downloaded called the sales ACL. Can you see the content? Absolutely. Show IP access dash list. It's a per user ACL that was downloaded. It's denying telnet, permitting the rest. So that's why I could ping, but I could not telnet it. So not only am I controlling the VLAN, I can also do things like ACLs over here based on the authorization. So if you look at what are the things that we covered over here in terms of wired, configuring the relationship between ICE and switch, configuring identity groups and users, .1x authentication with VLAN assignment and DACO. The only thing left is map, which specifies that I want to do authentication based on the MAC address. What it stands for is MAC-based authentication bypass. This is for devices that I want to authenticate, but I want to authenticate based on what? The MAC address. So I don't want to do .1x authentication on it. I want to do authentication based on the MAC address. Understood? That's what MAB stands for. On the same switch, what I have is on port 18, I have an IP phone connected. I want to configure port 18 for MAB. How do I do that? I'll just copy the same thing. The only thing different is I need to put the voice VLAN for a IP phone. I'll just put it at the bottom. It is on port 18 of the switch. Just for the heck of it, I'll put the voice VLAN as 10. And I'll copy it. I'll keep the port down for right now until I configure the MAP portion on the other side. What is the other side? On the ICE side. Actually, I'll bring it up because I want something. I want to find the MAC address. I don't know the MAC address. So I'll copy this. I will go to my switch. I'll copy the configuration onto my port that is connected to my IP phone. Now, as soon as I do that, it will try to connect in with this particular MAC address. What I can do over here, once I find the MAC address, I can go into my ICE. Under context visibility, there's endpoints. The MAC address that I just copied is this guy. It has, I don't even need to copy it. It has already profiled it as what? It knows it's a Cisco IP phone. It's profiled it and allowed it to connect it. Because the reason for that is there's a policy. See, for the IP phones, you don't need to do too much. Why? There's a policy by default under authorization for IP phones. See this? Profile Cisco IP phones. When the packet comes in, based on the packet coming in, ICE recognizes a Cisco IP phone and uses this particular policy. If you go under operations for live logs, it'll show you what is happening over here. You will see that the Cisco IP phone was profiled. This particular MAC address, this is the one that I just copied, CF83, that's this particular one, is profiled as an IP phone. So for IP phones, I don't need to do anything special. It automatically does that for you. You just need to be aware that there's a policy for Cisco IP phones which recognizes the device as an IP phone. Got it? So that's the map. Map, you don't need to do anything special. Let's say it was not a Cisco IP phone, it was a non-Cisco IP phone. For those type of devices, you need to copy the MAC address and add it. Where? If it was a non-IP phone, you would go over here. There's an option for add, and you would put the MAC address over here. The only difference is you need to remember, put the MAC address in this format. The ICE does not support the 4.4 format for the MAC address. What does it support? This particular format. 2:2:2. It's still the same 12 hex digits, but it's broken differently. And over there, you can put it into a different identity group. For example, I can say, I can create an identity group, not just these, I can create my own one, like admin PCs, and put them over there. Printers, I can put them over there. So I can authenticate devices based on MAC addresses. Once I find the MAC address, I can put it over here for an endpoint. For an IP phone, I don't need to worry about it. Why? There's a policy for it. If you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and disable the policy and create your own. But by default, the policy is there. Profile Cisco IP phones. It knows it's a Cisco IP phone based on the packets that are coming in from the device. And that's this part. Very simple. So this part is done, and this part is done. Everybody okay with this so far? The last thing over here is device administration. This is a new thing. Up to this point of ICE, what we have been doing is been working with end users. Whether it was wired ICE, whether it was wireless ICE. We looked at end users. We did not look at administration. Generally, in the old days, that part was taken care of by another device called the ACS server. So you had a product, it's still there, but it's close to end of life, if not already. The ACS server was a product that allowed you the ability for your routers or your firewalls or your switches, when the administrator logged in, to authenticate the users logging into routers, firewalls, and switches locally. Instead of doing it locally, do it to the ACS server. The advantage of doing that is you had the ability to control what commands can a user do on a router or a firewall or a switch. So he can log in, but he would not be able to issue all the commands. So you can control what commands you can do on the ACS server. Now, what they're trying to do is they want to get rid of the ACS server and put that capability into ICE. So now ICE has that capability as well. What was lacking in the previous versions of ICE was the TACACS protocol. In order to do command authorization, you needed to have TACACS protocol. ICE did not have that capability. Now it does. With 2.x, you do have the ability to do TACACS as well. And that's what I want to show you guys. How do you do device administration on a Cisco device based on TACACS? User authentication, TACACS is better? No. User authentication, Radius is better. Device authentication or device administration, TACACS is better. Completely the other way around. So user authentication, what we have been doing, we've been doing it through Radius so far. For Cisco devices, what we're going to do right now is device administration, which I'm going to do through TACACS, because that gives me the ability to individually check what commands. All right. So again, what we have been doing and what it is good for is end user authentication, end user management. Better through what? radius, device administration. So basically the administrators of the network logging into the network devices is better through TACACS Plus. This is specifically for what? Cisco. All right. How do I do it? The first thing that I need to do for device administration is set up my devices, whether it's a router or a switch, to go to where? To your, what do you call it? To your ICE, in our case, for authentication, authorization, and accounting, the AAA. Authentication will do the username password validation. Yes, correct username, right password. If you don't want them typing in the enabled password, you can do exec authorization, which gives them the privilege level 15, puts them into the privilege exec mode. But you might say, well, that means everybody, all the administrators will get into the privilege exec mode without typing in the enabled password. That is true, but then that's where the command authorization comes in. Even though they get into privilege exec mode, you control what they do based on their username and password. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. And accounting is what did you do? So the logging of the commands that you typed in. Command authorization, which is better? What do you mean by which is better? Only TACACS. Command authorization is only TACACS, Faisal. That's what I was trying to tell you. The statement that you made, flip it and you'll be okay. All right, so what do I do on the device side? And let me write that down for you guys as well. This was the last thing that we did, interface, submit, create the file, and paste. So this was done. The last thing was device administration. Step 1, configure the device, which in our case can be a router or a switch. The commands are exactly the same. AAA new model, I'm going to do it on a router 2 as a test device. Point it to the TACACS server. Host 123.35 key. This is setting up the relationship. Where is the TACACS server? Once this is done, you specify your authentication list. Login. So for login authentication, for Telnet or SSH, give it a name. Give the login list a name, ABC, just a name. Point it to group TACACS. Basically means for login authentication, wherever I use ABC, use a TACACS server. Where's the TACACS server? This is where the TACACS server is at. Similarly, for assigning the privilege level, which is called exec authorization, again, use a name. It doesn't have to be ABC. I'll call it DEF just so that you guys understand it can be different. That will give them the ability to get into the privilege exec mode. ABC is just a tag. ABC is just a tag. This is the name that points to the TACACS server. Hang in there, you will see it. AAA authorization, any level 15 command. That means your global config command. The user types in, again, username. I can use the same name, DEF, which points again to TACACS. Once I do that, and if I want to do authorization for my commands, I need to put this toggle key, says authenticate or authorize your config commands. These are your authorization commands. If you want to log it, AAA, accounting, exec. Exec is basically for your start and stop, basically for logging in and logging out. So if you want to keep track of when did the user log in, when did he log off, this is the command for that. All right, I'll give it a name again. whatever you want to call it. Let's say ACCT, just a name. Again, just a name. Whatever I'm typing in capitals is just a name. I want start and stop records. Point it to the TACAC server. Send it to the TACAC server. And if I want to find out what commands he typed in, again, command 15. That means all the main commands, the config commands. ACCT, point it to the TACAC server. Now, although I created these lists, I have 3-4 lists created. I need to apply it to my incoming users through Telnet. So I'm going to say line VTY 0/4. Whoever logs in to VTY 0/4, authenticate them based on this list name called ABC. This is where I am applying this list called ABC. So whoever tries to Telnet in or SSH into this router says, oh, my authentication should be done based on ABC. It goes over here. ABC says, do the authentication based on what? TACAC, which points over here, because this is the TACAC server. So you understand what the ABC is? It's a list name, which is then applied to your line VTY. So at this point, you're creating that list. You're not applying an ACL or anything like that. You get that, Faisal? You're creating it at that point. It could have been anything, XXX. But then if you created it as XXX for authentication, you would need to do what? You would need to say authentication is based on XXX. So that's what the link is for authentication. For authorization, for exec, what is the name of the list for authorization exec? Tell me, what is the name for the exec authorization list over here? What did I call it? DEF. So I need to tell it that, hey, exec authorization should be done based on DEF. Similarly, command authorization should be done based on what? What is the name of the list for command authorization for 15? Also DEF. So it could be anything. It would be the same, could be different, doesn't matter. Everything points to the proper thing. The accounting part, accounting exec. What's the name of the list? Do you understand what I'm trying to do over here? I'm pointing to the list which points to the protocol. So whenever I point to ACCT, it says exec authorization should be done based on the TACAC server. That means send the commands and the login logouts to the TACAC server. So that's how you apply it. These are the commands that you need to do on your router or a switch. It's the same command, same set of commands. Copy it. Let's do this on router 2. Done? Once this is done, now I need to do the configuration on the ICE box, which is your authentication, accounting, or authorization server. How do I do that? Let's take a look. First thing, which is something that you need to do over here for ICE configuration, configure the device administration service on ICE, or I should say configure it, enable it, because it's not enabled by default. Where's this under? Administration, I think it's settings, deployment, ICE policy service. We'll check it. If it's not, if something's wrong, we'll do it. Enable the device administration service. Save. Let me show you where. Administration, system, deployment. So far, so good. Go to ICE, same place that I enabled the SXP service. Hopefully it doesn't honk off just like the SXP service. Enable device admin service. Save. So this is the first thing that you need to do. This thing over here. This allows you the ability to do device administration using TACACS on a ICE device. So I've enabled it. Next thing, set up a pointer towards the client device. And what is a client device in our case? Router 2. All right. This is under administration, network resources, network devices. Give it a name. I'll call it R2, IP address, 10.2, secret key. Needs to match this key that I have specified over here, because it's a relationship that I'm setting up. And the protocol, actually the protocol comes first. Save. So let's do this one. Administration, network resources, hate this. Network devices. Same place I had switch and WLC. I add it for administration. So I'll call it R2, 192.168.10.2. If you scroll down, TACACS, I'm not going to enable radius over here. Say Cisco 123 and submit. So my device is there. Done. Now I start doing my settings. I'll create 2 policy elements over here. Step 4, configure the policy elements for exec level 15 and the commands for level 15. What privilege level they get assigned and what commands can they do. Now the commands, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a super admin. He's going to have a privilege of 15. All right. And I am also going to give him all commands. So what I'm going to do actually is create actually the other way around. I'll create a privilege level, because everyone will get 15. So I'll create a privilege level of 15. I'll call it priv level 15, and I'll create 3 command sets. Command sets I'm going to create is super admin, all commands. So whoever gets this will get all commands. I will create another one called R admins. Routing commands like, what do you call it? Router, network, version, auto summary, etc. Auto summary, I'll put IP route as well. All right, you guys get the gist. Super admin can do everything. Our admins can only do specific route commands. So let's do that. So over here, the place that you do it under, I can go to Work Center. I can do it under Policy Elements. I like the Work Center because you can just go to over here and create it. Policy Elements. Go to Results. And over there is your TACACS profiles. The profiles is your privilege level. So let me write this down for you guys. The privilege level or the profiles is under Work Center, under remember off the top of my head. Work center, I went to device administration, policy elements. Results and TACAX profile. In here, I'm going to create a profile with the name of priv underscore level and give it a priv level of 15 and save. Let me show you that. And then later on, I'm going to assign this priv level 15. So under TACAX profiles, I'll add, as I said, I'll call it priv level. And the default level that I want to give him is 15. That means he can get into any mode. But then I'm going to control him later on based on the commands he can type in. So the default level for everyone is going to be the same. So I created a priv level called 15. This one has 15 in there. Once this is done, same place, I'm going to give the commands, create the commands now. Super admin should have all commands. Our admins should have these commands. So this is command sets, add, super admin, just a name. Tell him permit any command that is not listed. So basically, he has every command. Permit any command. So super admin will be allowed to do anything. But then I'll create another one called router admin. For him, I'm going to add the commands. Every single command that he can type in needs to be added, starting from config T. The way you add it is you click on add, permit, command is going to be configure. Make sure you type it in correctly, enter. So configure is the command. If you want to allow him just config T, the argument goes over here. If you don't put anything in the argument, that means he can do configure and anything after that. Once you click on it, click on the checkbox. That means it puts it in over here. So you've done config T. A router admin should be able to do what now? Router, I'm not going to say an argument over here. That means what? Router and anything, RIP, PHRP, OSPF, whatever he wants to do. Add. Now that he's done that, he's into the routing mode. I want him to be able to do network and advertise any network. Maybe for RIP, I want him to be able to do the version command. For OSPF, I want him to be able to do the router ID command. All right, everybody okay with that? You guys understand that? So these are the only commands that will be assigned to anybody that has been assigned this command set called router admins. Once I'm done with the commands over here, why is it not giving me the, and this interface sucks. I need to refresh it and do it again. This is Java for you guys. Add router admin. Start with configure, terminal, check, make sure my submit is lit up. Router, all the arguments, submit, add, network, all arguments, next, IP route version, and then click on submit. So I have two command sets, super admins and router admins. Good so far? Now I need to create these users. It's not sales and marketing and finance. These are end users. I want to create administrators. Same place, but a different set of users. So over here, you can do it same place. You can go to groups, create a group. Let's call it super admins. Create it. I'll create another one called R admins, which is for routers. So create the two groups. Once the groups are created, create the users and put the users inside the group. Add. I'll call it put the password over here. Put it where I am going to put under super admins. And then I'll create another one. Tom. Same password. I'll put him into router admins. So my users are also created. Let me write that down for you guys. That would be step number 5. Create the groups and users for the administrators. Where is it done? Administration, identity management, groups, and then the same place you do identities, right over here. Identity management, groups, and then identities. You guys know how to do it. We've been doing it for a while now. For the other stuff as well, same concept. So I'm not going to write details about it, but you should be able to figure that out. Groups, and I'll also do identities. Once this is done, number 6, create the TACACS policies to link the priv level, the command sets to the appropriate groups. Where's that done? Under Work Center. One of the options is device administration, device admin policy sets. Click on default. What was that called? Device admin policy sets. And then was TACACS. Oops. Default. Done. Once I'm over here under the default, this is where I create my authorization policy by doing what? Insert. I'll call it super admin policy, just a name. What I need to specify over here is if the user is a member of this group called super admins, what I want to do with that super admin user, give him the command set called super admins, and I want to give him a profile called priv 15, priv level. All right. Done. Next, I'll create another rule for what? Router admins. That's just a name. Policy. Pick the group. There's router admin, or admins. And the command set that I want to assign him. Router admin. And the profile, the same profile. Everybody gets prim 50. Done? So those are my two profiles, and you can get creative with that and do different type of profiles with different names. Save it, and I'm done. We can now test it. Let's do telnet from R3 to R2. Telnet 192.168.10.2. Transfer a username as Kuar. Password is Cisco123. Logged in. My privilege is 15. So my exec authorization is done. Config T. Come on. ISACAMP policy 10. I can do whatever I want. I'm the super admin. But the more important part is when I log in as whom? What was the other user called? I believe Tom. Yep, I logged in. If I go to global config and I do the same command, I can't do it. Why? It's not in that list that was assigned to Tom. Tom was member of router admin. Can he do router RIP or router EIGRP? Absolutely can, because I gave him that command. He can do the network command because I gave him that command. You get my point? But if I do redistribute static, that command is not given to him. So only the commands that he can type are the ones that have been given to his profile on ICE. And these type of things would have been logged where? On your server. How do I see it? You go to operations, live logs for TACACS, it'll show you that. The authorization and the authentication. Tom logged in, and what commands did he do? You can see that over here. Ask, what command was he trying to do? What was the command? This is the login. One second. Okay, this one. Why is it red? Fail. Something he did not work. It's not showing the commands, but it's telling you that the authorization failed. Yeah, it's not giving you that. It's telling you that it failed that. Let's check if I can get a. authorization. It's not telling the exact command though. Thought it did. Maybe it's in there somewhere. Tells you whether it succeeded or not. I don't know why it's not giving you the actual command. Normally it should be able to. Details, but it's not. Yep, there you go. Command from the device. So if it's a great one, network from there. So that's the command. There you go, right up, right in front of your face. Because on ACS it was a different log, so you would see it differently. All right, and that, you guys, is this part over here. Bang on time. All right, done. What I want to do, guys, if you don't mind, is I also, although the course is finished, I want you guys to spend an hour with me. What I would recommend, what I'm suggesting is next Saturday, we normally used to do the class at, let's say, 4 p.m. It would start at 4 p.m. GMT plus 4 at 7 o'clock. Not this time because I'll have another class, but 7 o'clock next Saturday. I want you guys to log in using the same ID. I want to spend an hour from 7 to 8, just tying up any loose ends that we have. Next Saturday, 3 hours from the start of what we normally would start this class at, I want to spend about an hour tying up any loose ends. Although I've covered everything, I still want to tie up any new, loose ends that I have. All right. Pleasure to have you guys in class, and I shall see you guys next Saturday, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Faisal. All right, Gilbert. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care, guys.